Hello and welcome to the Artists Make Money podcast, where artists share their thoughts and feelings about money. I'm your host, VIVIENNE EGAN. I'm an interactive theatre and comedy producer, podcaster and freelance business writer, and I love digging into how different artists have forged their unique careers. Today's guest is poet, activist, community performance artist and small business owner Mia-Daliya Cunningham. We talked about how she manages her business without compromising her political values, avoiding activist burnout, juggling income sources to support your artistic work, saving for retirement, and learning from financial mistakes. This episode of Artists Make Money is brought to you by our friends at Side Hustle Sites. They make designer flat pack websites, like the IKEA of websites, with helpful instructions and guides for how to make your website look really great. It is cheaper than Squarespace, and their templates are actually specialized to particular jobs. So they've got templates for theatre professionals and for freelance writers. I'm actually about to use them to build my freelance writing website because I don't have one. Or they can actually design you a website from scratch, which they did for me on the Artists Make Money website. If you sign up via sidehustle-sites.com/AMM, I will link that in the show notes, you will get a fantastic professional looking website and your first month subscription free and the second month half price. That is just for Artists Make Money listeners. On with the show. Hello Mia, welcome to the Artists Make Money podcast. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm tired today, but in general, very well, which I feel like any time at the moment that you're feeling good is a win, I think.
I agree.
So would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners? Tell us who you are, what you do.
Yeah, sure. I'm Mia. I'm a community performance artist and activist, and I have a small business called the Tote Revolution where I make tote bags and try to make money for some charities, but also use it as kind of like an extra income for myself as well as an artist.
Brilliant. So you've actually just answered my first question, which is how do you make money? Unless there are other ways you make money. Do you have any other forms of income?
Yeah, so I think as most artists, I wear a lot of hats. So I dabble in a bit of everything. I have a normal job where I work in retail. I also am a spoken word poet. So whenever I do gigs, I do commissions, I write poetry for people. So that's also a bit of my income as well. So yeah, I kind of have a bit of knowledge from all these different little pots that I try to use whenever I can and make money from them if I can.
Great. And you're also a student at the moment, is that right?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm doing my MA at the moment.
That all sounds very tiring to me.
It is a lot of work, but I wish there were more hours in the day. But I do as much as I can.
So tell me about the Tote Revolution. How long have you been running this business?
So I started the Tote Revolution in July last year, in the middle of the pandemic. And the main reason why I started it was because I felt like my artistic bone wasn't being flexed enough, and I felt kind of, I don't know, a bit strange, and there was this kind of gap in my life where I was like, oh, I need to be doing something. Like, I want to be doing something creative, and obviously I couldn't go out and perform, and I couldn't do these things that I was used to doing. So I decided to set something up, and I'm not an artist by any means, actually, like in terms of visual drawings or painting, but I thought, why not give it a go? So I started kind of making tote bags for myself and showing them to my family, and they were like, oh, they're really good. Like, you should sell them. So I made a little Instagram page and was basically at the beginning just selling them, where all the profit was going to the Black Lives Matter movement. So all of the money that I was making, I wasn't keeping any of it unless it was to make more bags. And then people started to really like it, and I've started to kind of make a little thing of it where I raise money for charity, but also keep that little bit for myself to be able to use and keep making my art. So yeah, it's really nice.
Great. Excellent. So yeah, tell us about like how your work as an activist is kind of informing that business? So like it's part of the actual production and like the actual aesthetics of the products, is that right?
Yeah, so I guess it's quite strange really, because I guess activism is a part of my daily life, so it would seem kind of not myself to not bring it into my business.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just something that's always been a part of me. And when I created my business, I didn't even really think about whether it was going to be political or not, because as a human, I'm quite a political person. So I was like, oh, well, it seems logical to put Black Lives Matter on a bag, or all these fun, like crazy little slogans and things that people really seem to enjoy. And I think the people that I attract towards the business have a similar sort of political view to me. So that helps. And they really like, I think, the activism side of the Tote Revolution, which I guess is why it's a revolution.
That is fabulous. And I think, I think quite often people think that starting a business means that you have to sort of put aside your values or beliefs, or that it's like, well, I'm engaging in capitalism now, so like, I just got to do that. So I think it's really great that you're able to sort of demonstrate that you can both live out your values in the sort of whole like production chain, if you like, of like from start to finish of this.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I think if you like, I mean, that's definitely something that I've thought about, from the beginning. I was like, oh no, like, what am I doing? Is this something that I should be engaging in, like you said? And I think as somebody who hasn't, like, from a group that hasn't benefited from economics or capitalism necessarily, I think it's really helpful to have voices within that sphere, especially small business sphere, that are there saying this is an alternate way that you can make money but also give back, and also make those small changes to be able to maybe end things that are making issues for minorities and other people, so it was definitely something that I thought about, and it's still something I think about. I'm like, oh no, should I be doing that? Is that inappropriate? But then I'm like, no, it's fine.
It's definitely fine, because I think there is, like, making money in itself is not a bad thing. It's what you choose to do with it once you get it, right?
Yeah.
And so what sort of breakdown, what sort of proportion of your income from that business goes to charity versus that goes to you?
So basically, every month I try to dedicate a certain percentage to a charity or a couple of charities. And as well, I do seasonal raffles. So I'll do like 4 raffles a year, which I try to include one charity where basically 100% of the profit will go towards that charity, as much as I make from that raffle. But then every month, 10% of my sales will go towards that charity. So it all depends on how much I'm making that month, but most of the time they get a really nice little bit of money. And I try to choose charities that don't have a big following, or like aren't those like super giant charities which are getting a lot of donations every day. So that, I think that £50 probably makes a bigger difference to them than a lot of people think, which is quite nice, and it feels good. It's like, oh, they're actually going to use that for some really brilliant things. So yeah, it's lovely.
That's really cool. So how do you see it growing in the future? Are you just going to continue just to make totes, or are you going to branch out into different areas?
You know what? It's something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, because obviously I didn't start the business that long ago. It's been only going for less than a year. So I've been thinking what I want to do with it and how far I could take it. I would love to branch out into clothing. That would be something I'd really be interested in. Like, my background definitely isn't in necessarily fashion, but my younger sister, she's a fashion designer and she's amazing at things like that. So I was thinking maybe about getting her involved in that side of it. She'd be brilliant at that. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, I've just been saying to people, I want to take it as far as it can go. I mean, I'm not pressuring myself. It's unfortunately I can't spend all of my time on it, which is really annoying because I would love to. But at the moment, I just want to take it as far as it can go and do as much as I can with it, because I think that it's making a difference in my life because I'm enjoying it and having fun, but also the products that I'm making people like and they wear. So I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I should, keep going and do with it what it will basically create, and the outcome will be I'll be happy with.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I think personally, my 2 cents is your next step should be to pay yourself enough that you don't have to do your retail job anymore.
I would love that.
Because it's like a friend of mine is a business coach, and she's like, I know so many people who like want to make a lot of money or want to like make a difference in the world, right? So they're like, I'm going to start like a charity and I'm going to do it. And she is much more capitalist than I think we might be, but she was kind of like, no, what, like I tell people, make a whole lot of money doing something else and then give heaps of money to the charity. But I think the principle is like pay yourself first.
Yeah.
But like also you do have to sort of keep your values right in the very foundations of your business, which obviously you are doing spectacularly well. It's very cool.
You.
And so do you see it as a sort of continuous part of your creative practice, the business?
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's not only informing, I guess, my creative kind of outlook and being able to make things, but it's also a really great way for me to reach other people, and a really great way for me to find other people who are doing similar things to me. Like I've met a lot of people, like with my MA, it's quite difficult to meet people who are in the same field as you because it's very specific. It's very hard to kind of talk to people about issues that maybe are quite niche. But with the business, I'm meeting people who are very similar to me and who have really similar interests. So it's really helping me kind of get a better outlook on life and be able to connect with people who I maybe wouldn't have ever connected with before, who are like overseas. And that's, I guess, the great thing about social media is that I can talk to people in other countries who are like, oh yeah, I totally love what you've written on this bag. Like, this is what's happening in my country. And I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. I never knew that. And that's also informing, I guess, my practice and like wider ability to kind of create and help other people.
That's such a cool, like, unforeseen side benefit of having a sort of social justice oriented business is that you can like build out those networks and get all of these insights. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool.
I mean, forgive me, you're quite young, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm 22.
You're 22. Oh, what an age. So tell me about your kind of experience with money, like growing up and sort of your like now having become an adult quite recently. Like, what's the changing kind of relationship you have? If it's changing at all, I don't know. Is it changing?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, I guess, that's like ever changing, and like I'm quite happy to be able to accept that it's kind of one of those things which ebbs and flows. You know, 1 minute I'm in a great position, I'm really happy, and everything's going really well, and then the next week I'm like, oh no, like what am I doing? This is a bit crazy. I don't know what's going where, and I need to kind of sort this out. And I think that's, I guess, a continuing relationship that I have with money. And growing up, all my family are artists, so I never grew up in a household where people kind of got necessarily a stable income, if that makes sense. Everybody in my house was pretty much self-employed at one point. My mum is a visual artist, she's an abstract artist. My granddad is a writer. My nan, she's a photographer, and my dad makes music. So I grew up in a house where I think it wasn't really spoken about that much, but at the same time it was like known that it was there, and there may have been issues, but ultimately it was always a thing like, oh yeah, but this is coming next, and I've got this, and I've got this, and I've got that. And that's, I think, what I've brought into my kind of like ability to be an artist is like, you know, like I said, I wear many hats. There's basically nothing that I won't try. Like, if I can create my art and be happy, I don't mind doing 5 other jobs on the side, or trying this or trying that. And I think that's really nice, and I think that's benefited me as a person more than anything. Like, I always say to people, they're like, oh, you know what, well, it must be really difficult, like having like a retail job, or having like a hospitality job when you're trying to like practice your art. And I'm like, well, actually, it's I think it's one of the most beneficial things to do, because you learn so much about humans and like people, and ultimately you become a better artist, because you really do understand what people like, what people want, what people dislike, and you kind of become one of those, I guess, counselors, therapists to a lot of people who you meet on like an everyday basis. And that always comes out in your art, and I really like that. So yeah, I guess money is one of those things that it goes up and down, and I kind of accept the fact that at the moment it's not stable, but you know, that's fine. I can live with that right now. Like you said, I'm young, you know, I don't have necessarily any disposable income, but I don't really need it right now. So yeah, I'm happy. Yeah.
So what I'm kind of gleaning is that there was sort of like a level of comfort with the kind of unpredictability of the sort of artistic income.
Yeah.
Because, you know, so many people feel really uncomfortable with that, right?
Definitely.
And so it can be, I think it can be a double-edged sword, because you're kind of like, it's all right, it'll sort itself out. But then on the other hand, it's like, but what if it doesn't?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's like my constant state of mind, like most days. Like, I'm like, it's gonna be fine, but then I'm like, oh my god, but what if it isn't gonna be fine? And that's, I mean, I think that's fine. I think even people who probably have a lot of money probably think that, you know, it's just I think it's a human reaction to be like, you know, what if this ends and then I don't have this, or what if this doesn't work out? And I'm like, well, if it doesn't work out, then I'm sure I'll find something else, because I have a million times before, you know.
Totally. And
yeah,
I think that is very emblematic of the transition that we're watching in the last maybe decade or so, of people going from having one career that they do their whole lives, to people having lots of different, you know, income strands. So that means also that you don't have to rely on any single one of them in order to survive. So if one of them goes away, then it's not like a disaster.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you were saying before that, say before the pandemic, you had been making some money as doing commissions, doing performance poetry. Like, tell us about that. When did you start doing that, and how do you make money from that endeavor?
So I've had quite an unusual kind of, I guess, journey into performance poetry. So when I was 14, I became a young poet laureate, which enabled me to travel the country and facilitate at a very young age, and kind of meet people and create work, which was really, really nice. And I've created the kind of like lifelong bonds with people who are really like, you know, massive in the poetry community, and everybody knows who they are. And I kind of got to meet them at a stage in my poetry career where I was like just learning and just starting. So that really enabled me to kind of enjoy the journey and carry it on, I think, as long as I have. So I started performing and facilitating when I was 14, and I've been doing it ever since. So I'm 22 now, so yeah, like 7-8 years. And I absolutely love it. It's like the thing, it's literally one of those things that, like, if I could do it as my one and only career, I would. Because it's been in my life for a very long time, and I really enjoy it, and I enjoy what I get out of it, but also what I can give other people. And yeah, it's something that I've kind of taken around with me since I grew up in Shropshire, and then kind of I went to Birmingham, and then from Birmingham to London, and then from London to Brighton. And every single place that I've been, I've taken it with me and kind of tried to make an impact on the communities that I've been in. with that poetry. And yeah, I love it. At the moment it's basically online mostly. So I'm making a lot of work for like my Instagram and YouTube and things like that, rather than doing performances in person. But still, I've got some really exciting projects coming up to do with that in Brighton, so it's going to be great. I can't wait to like finally get back to it.
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I should say, you know, it is totally possible for you to do that as your sole.
Yeah.
I have a friend who is a full-time poet.
I know, it's one of those things that I like. It's my ultimate goal. It's my ultimate dream. I would love to do it, and I'm going to work as hard as possible to be able to get there. But it's still ingrained in my memory. I think it's as artists do, when somebody tells you something, it's always there. And it's like, ever since I was 14, ever since I became a laureate, like people were like, oh, would you like to do it as a career? And I was like, yeah. And then like, oh yeah, but there's like no money in it. And it's like, oh, there is. Yeah. But I just need to get to the point where, like, you know, I'm well known enough to be able to like create a book or like self-publish, or have enough money to self-publish.
Totally.
Yeah.
I promise you you can do that. I promise. Particularly from what I've seen of like how hard you work on it, like literally everything you do. So I'm sure that you will be fine. But it is about forging your own path, and it's also about not listening to idiots who are like, oh, there's no money in that. It's like,
I know, it's so exhausting. I'm like, can you go and like make money with what you're doing, please? Don't talk about my money. I'll do what I want with my money.
I know.
Thank you.
Everyone's an expert.
They are.
Especially at stuff that they know nothing about.
Mm-hmm.
So annoying.
Truly.
So well, actually, one of my questions that I was going to ask you is, if money were no object, how would you spend your time? So would it just literally be in writing and performing?
Yeah, I think so. I think I would just literally write and perform as much as possible. And yeah, that's basically what I would love to do. And I'd love to kind of incorporate that with like what I'm doing in my MA, which is like community theatre and education. So kind of bringing in the community side of it, bringing in the kind of more artistic side of it, being able to employ other artists to kind of branch out and create really amazing pieces of community artwork, which hopefully would be then kind of shared on a bigger stage so more people could see it. And I'd also absolutely love to like write in different places, because I think that being in the UK and writing, my writing style is quite specific. But I think that if I was able to travel, my writing style would probably change, and I would love to see what that would look like. Because I haven't really experienced that, and I think that would be so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully one day soon. Hopefully that out. So with your business, I'm going to ask some sort of nuts and bolts kind of questions now.
Yeah.
What's the structure? Do you have like a limited company? Do you have a separate bank account? Like, how do you manage it on a day-to-day kind of level?
Yeah, so basically my business, I'm basically self-employed through it. At the moment, I'm not making enough money to actually register as self-employed, which is fine. But I treat it as I'm self-employed, if that makes sense.
Yes, definitely.
So like I keep everything all together in a way that's really easy for me to access. I have a separate section in my bank account. So I have one bank account, but it's split into two. And one of the sections is mainly all for business. So that's where the money comes out of if I'm buying new stock, or if people pay me, that's where the money will go.
Yeah.
And that's basically where the basics of the business is at the moment. Hopefully soon, when I can register as self-employed, it will be something that will be easier for me to do, and not so kind of time consuming, because at the moment I'm sort of planning everything in advance, whereas hopefully when I can register, it will all be kind of easier. Yeah.
Great. I love the idea of treating it as a business in that kind of administrative way, even if it's not legally, a business entity. Like, I've been self-employed for years, but I only started I started a business bank account like a year ago, and it's like changed my life. Having a different bank account from my personal expenses, so good. So I'm now a total evangelist for having separate bank accounts.
Love it.
Yeah. What financial mistakes have you made?
Oh, all of them. All of them.
Go on.
Literally, oh gosh, I don't even know where to start. I think, it's one of those things that, like, I think as an artist, creator, whatever you do, if you're investing time in something that you love and enjoy, there's ultimately going to be times where you make mistakes. Like, I've over ordered too much stock and I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do with all this stuff? Like, I don't know, I can't give it back. Like, I've lost this much money, like nobody's going to buy it, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you work out how to kind of, I guess, change that, and that's, I think I've probably made every mistake under the sun in terms of my business. And the good thing about that is that I don't have a lot of eyes watching me at the moment because I'm still very small. And I'm glad that I've made them, because if I didn't make them, I wouldn't have wanted to make them in like a couple of years' time if my business grows any more than it does.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad that I did make those small mistakes there, like what seemed like big mistakes then, but are small mistakes in like the grand scheme of things.
Absolutely. Yeah. Totally. And as you say, now is exactly the time. Mistakes in business and in life.
Yeah.
What is your best money habit?
I think actually probably what we said before, separating your money that you make. Like, my money that I make from my retail job just goes on like rent, food, travel. That's it. Like, that's where it goes. But the money that I make from my business goes on business things and things that I think would benefit my business, whether that is personally for me, like me being able to go to a business seminar, or me being able to travel somewhere to go and see what my product looks like in this kind of shop, all that kind of stuff. And I think being able to separate it is really important, because if you don't, it does become a lot and it becomes really confusing to be able to separate, oh wait, what's that money for and what's this money for? And like I said, I don't have any disposable income, but at the moment that is absolutely fine, and I'm quite happy just using what I have to expand the two things that I want to do, which is like my education and be able to either write poetry or create work, and my business, which hopefully I'll be able to expand as well.
That's cool. What is your worst money habit?
Unnecessary spending, I think. Yeah. I think especially on things that in my head, I like rationalize. So it will be things that, like, actually, if I was in a better headspace, those things would be beneficial to me. Like me being able to go to a specific place or do a specific thing. But a lot of the times when I organize to do these things, I don't think about them enough, and think about, okay, this is what I'm going to write down as to what I need to learn from this experience, what I'm going to gain from it, and how it's going to benefit me in the future. So I just do it, and then I forget about it. And then it's like unnecessary amount of money has gone on me doing something, and I haven't benefited from that experience. So yeah, I think that's probably the main one.
Okay. I think that's something that can be worked on.
It is.
Sounds like something it would be as simple as, like, in 3 weeks' time, you go back and like review your notes or something like that.
Definitely.
Put a little calendar reminder in.
Yeah.
But I know, like, I do that kind of thing a lot. I go to, like, I usually just sign up for the free ones, but I'll do a thing, I'll write all these notes and then I'll not implement them, or I'll sign up for something and never open the email.
Definitely.
It's okay. It happens. Do you have any savings? Do you save?
Nope.
How about do you have a pension, a retirement fund?
No, I don't. I mean, I can get one this year because I'm 22. So, you can't get a pension before you're 22 if you're in there. Yeah.
In Australia, like as soon as you get your first job, so you might be 15 or 16 working for McDonald's and you get
No, in the UK, you can't get your pension until you're over 22. So it would be something that I would do this year. Yeah, hopefully.
Great. Are you going to?
Yes, I'm going to try. My main aim this year is to stop working my retail job and be able to actually transition into a job which is more aligned with my business and everything else that I do. So hopefully, if that happens, then that will be something that I guess would come with the job. Hoping that it would be something that I could really spend time on and invest my time and money and energy into, which would be really nice.
Yes. What kind of job do you see that?
Probably working for some sort of NGO or charity. I really love doing kind of performance-based work, but as well I'm really interested in like community organization and like charity organization work. So that anything along those lines I would be happy doing. Anything to do with like environmental activism or political activism. Yeah, it would be really, really nice. And it would be nice to be able to do it and get paid.
Getting paid for activism is important because otherwise you get activism burnout and that.
Yeah, oh my gosh, me every day.
Yeah, totally. Well, okay, I'm going to check in on you later in the year and make sure you've got attention, whether it is through your company or like your own self-employed thing, because it's very important. And because you're so young, you could just put like £5 a month away and it'll just like grow, like start, the more it like has time to grow.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm on such a like everyone get a pension kick because I'm like, it's really like it is the easiest way to like save, and you can do it in a way that aligns with your values as well. So like I have a pension account which is like, I think it's only fossil fuel free. I don't think it is an impact one. There are different kinds, but like you can divest yourself of like the nasty stuff. That's and so nice. Even invest in like the like actual environmental work that is going on.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah, totally. And it's like, I read somewhere, and to be fair, this statistic came from, I'm just evangelizing now, by the way. This statistic did come from like a pension. There's like a big movement to make all pensions have to sign up or at least offer like an environmentally friendly fund. But like something like it's like a 27 times greater impact than you would going vegan or cutting out all flying.
Wow.
Pension invested with a green fund.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know, right? And it's like stuff that you don't think about, like all the, your banking, your mortgage, your like all of that stuff can be done in a green way. So it's something that I'm trying to like talk about, like, and one of the reasons why I want to make this podcast as well, it's like talk about what, your money can do to live out your values and beliefs as well.
Yeah.
So I am going to check back in. I'm going to make a note right now. Check.
Do it. Hold me accountable, because otherwise, this is what I do. I like tell people things.
Yes.
And then it's really good because I'm like, oh, make sure that you remind me. And they're like, oh yeah, I will. I'll do it with my mum. I'm like, I have to call her before like I write an essay. I'm like, Mum, I'm writing an essay today. And she's like, okay. And then she'll call me later and she'll be like, did you write the essay? And I'm like, yeah, I did. She's like, great. So this is literally perfect for that. Nice. It'll make me do it.
Accountability is a wonderful thing. And in fact, if anyone is listening to this podcast and saying, I think I need a pension as well, send me an email and I will check in on you too. I will just like get in touch on Instagram and just let me know, because I'll be your mum in this case.
Exactly.
So what do you see as like the next financial milestone for you to achieve?
I think being able to have that disposable income. So I don't want to go too far to be like to have a stable income, because I don't think that happens for a long time. And
like,
me,
that's too much.
I'm not good. That's too far for me. You know, I don't want to go too out there. I would love to have a stable income, but at the moment, being a student and other things, me being kind of here, there, and everywhere, that's probably not going to happen for at least like another year.
Okay. That's a reasonable time frame.
Yeah, but I think in terms of the next milestone, like I said, I would like to be able to get a job in the sector that I want to work in for the majority of my life, and then hopefully through that I'll be able to have some disposable income, which will then turn into a stable income.
Yes. And what would it mean to have disposable income? Like how would it change your life? What would you do with it?
To be able to kind of do things that I would love, like just want to do. Like at the moment, I can't really afford to kind of go to certain places or do certain things because I just don't have the funds, especially when it's travel based. Yeah. So if I wanted to go to London outside of going to university, I wouldn't be able to, because I have a kind of certain amount of money that I've put aside for London, which is weekly. So things like that I would love to be able to do, and I think it would be really beneficial for me to be able to go to like different events, meet different people, and I think travel is one of those big things that like ultimately it does cost quite a lot of money to be able to go backwards and forwards from different places without a car. Yeah. And things like that. And also I can't drive, so I would like to learn how to drive, because I think that would be good.
I can't drive either. I've started lessons just before the last lockdown, so I had like 3 lessons and then I was like, oh, no.
I actually, that's one really funny thing. I always talk to my mum about this, and I blame my mum for me not being able to drive because when I was a child, do you know what she said to me? I said, Mum, when I'm older, because I grew up in Shropshire where there's like no buses, there's no trains, there's no like public transport, so everybody drives. As soon as you turn 17, you learn how to drive. And I said to my mum, I was like, when I'm older, I'm going to learn how to drive. You know, I'm going to be driving everywhere. And she said to me, Mia, some people drive and some people are made to be driven. So in my head, I have like a subconscious thought, which is I'm made to be driven. So,
wow,
you know,
that is something else. I mean, blaming my mum for not being able to drive is much more mundane. It's like sort of, I was like, can you give me a driving lesson? She was like, oh, I don't really want to, but okay. And then she was like really nervous, and I mounted the curb in front of some friends, and that was it.
Well, maybe you're just made to be driven. This is
maybe that's what a life, eh? Oh, that's very funny. If you were like imagining yourself in 10 years, where are you?
Oh, I don't know. I think about this quite a lot, like what I will end up doing, or what I would love to do. And I think I would love to be in a position where I can create art at the same time as like making an impact. And I don't care whether that's necessarily, like I said before, whether I'm working in a charity, whether I'm self-employed, what I'm doing necessarily. But if I can do that while making a stable income, then that is like my ultimate goal for in like 10 years time. I would love that.
That's That sounds good. I think you can do it.
Yes. I hope so.
And I guess, I mean, I normally ask my guests what advice they would give to their younger selves, but I suppose you are still,
I am my younger self.
younger self. How about, what advice would you give to someone else in your position who, say, wants to make art and also like make a positive impact in the world?
Yeah, I think I would just say to be your most authentic self. Like, don't change the way that you are just because you think that you have to make money a certain way or you have to create art a certain way, even, because I think that that's also a big part of why people are scared of making what they want to make. And like, don't be afraid of like nobody sees it. Like, if it's just something that you make for yourself that you're never going to show anyone, or if you make something and put it out there and not as many people see it as you want them to, that's still absolutely fine. And that type of artwork is so important because it informs what you will do at a later date, and you will probably go back to it and be like, oh, actually that was really good, let me change this or create this or kind of adapt things. And yeah, I think just be you and enjoy being young and being able to do things that maybe you won't be able to do when you're older, because it's just really nice, it's fun, and we can have a really good time with not a lot of money. Like, you don't have to have a lot of money to make good art, and I think that that's really important to remember.
Totally. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and for telling us all about your business. Can you tell people where they can find you and find the Tote Revolution?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Mia_Daliya for my personal account, and then for my business, it's at the Tote Revolution with all underscores in between the words. And yeah, thank you so much. I've had a really nice time.
Great. I will include those links in the show notes so it will be easy to find. And yeah, everyone go check Mia's stuff out. Great. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. And you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Artists Make Money podcast. You can find us on Instagram at Artists Make Money, where you can also sign up for our weekly newsletter. You can find me on Twitter at VIVIENNE41, and you'll find Mia on Instagram at Mia_Daliya, that's DALIYA, and on Twitter at MiaPoet2013. You can find her business, The Tote Revolution, on Instagram and on ASOS Marketplace or in store at Lush Brighton. The music for this podcast was composed by Tiiva, and you can find them at Tiiva Music, that's DIIVA Music, and of course you'll find all those links in the show notes. If you enjoyed the show, I would love it if you would give it a follow and share with a friend. Being an artist is hard, and making a living from it is even harder, but I believe in you. Keep going.